Alright, can we have silence in the courtroom, please? I'd like to ask you to turn your voice boxes on shout so I can hear everyone loud and clear.
Thanks, Daddy.
Alright, so let's get this underway, boys.
Perfect. All right, Judge, I'll go ahead and start with my opening statement. Can everybody in the courtroom hear me loud and clear?
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So today, we have my client, the police department, LSPD. What we are here today is to prove that they acted lawfully and in the mind of keeping citizens safe by taking down these two individuals here in a what we like to call a old school Irish shootout. Now, my goal today, Judge, is to explain to you and provide evidence that would allow these criminals not only to pay for the crimes that they've committed, but allow them on a path of redemption and possibly rehabilitation. That'll be my opening statements.
Where the fuck are the jury?
There isn't one. You're the judge and jury for this.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay, well, if it pleases the court, I will begin my opening statement. So, as the DA rightly pointed out, my clients are Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Heffo here. And it is our assertion that the police officers, namely Mr. Dawson and his colleague Mr. Pickstock, acted wholly unlawfully. They're being charged.
Standing up, dancing for. Sit down.
Scholar,
Sit down.
stop.
Sit down, please. Yeah, you. Yeah.
North,
please
sit down.
Sit down. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm very sorry about that, Mr. Jimmy. Yeah, go ahead.
That's no problem. So as I was saying, my clients, Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Heffel, stand here before you today accused of many crimes. Mr. Ramirez has been accused of possession of Class 3 weapons, aiding and abetting, and finally reckless driving. Mr. Heffel has been accused of reckless driving, reckless evading, possession of stolen government ID, and criminal possession of PD-issued equipment. It is our position that the arrests made of the accused in this case were made wholly unlawfully, and therefore any items subsequently found in their possession would be the gains of a rotten tree and are therefore not subject of any criminal prosecution. The defence will show that the officers in this case acted above their station, breaching their own rules of engagement and targeted the accused without reasonable doubt as to their actions, not to mention the serious bodily harm brought to them by being fired upon without any pre-warning. We'll be asking the court to drop all charges immediately and without prejudice. Thank you, Your Honour.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that, Jimmy.
Taking this too serious.
All right, Your Honor. So, I would first like to call our first witness that we've discussed, and both myself and the defendants over there have agreed upon. I would like to call Officer Dawson to the stand, please, if you may so please. Thank you, Officer Dawson. Right over. Yep, right over there. There you go.
Point of order. Could we approach the bench?
Yes.
Switch to whisper here. I would suggest that we call Officer Pickstock first, just that he was the junior officer in this case, and we'll have less input in this. We'll have more questions for Mr. Dawson, and also he was the leading officer, and Mr. Pickstock has less evidence to actually give.
Me? I need a shit, mate.
In a turn of order, can I actually have Officer Pickstock come up to the stand, please, to take in placement of Officer Dawson at the moment?
I listening to his voice.
Good afternoon, Officer Pickstock. Yeah, go ahead and just sit up there for us. Okay. If you could for me, sir, can you go ahead and please state your name and position within LSPD?
Hi, my name is
Oh my god.
my name is Aaron Pickstock.
I object.
Not this
Quiet.
fucking Nick.
I would like to remind everybody of the court that if you are held in contempt, there is jail time and fine. So I do request that everybody please be quiet, or I will be forced to speak with the judge about possibly having people removed and or held in contempt.
Yes.
Continue, Officer Pickstock. Go ahead with your introduction.
I'm Officer Pickstock, Aaron Pickstock,
I'm
and I'm
just-
with LSPD.
My apologies, I'd be struggling to hear Aaron from here. Is he on shout?
Yeah,
Mr.
No,
Pickstock,
he
make sure you're on. He is on
definitely
shout.
Okay.
If you'd like to, Jimmy, you can go ahead and stand next to me if it would help out. There you go. Okay, continue, Officer Pickstock.
and I am a senior officer for the LSPD.
Perfect. If you can for me and the court, can you please explain the events starting from when you first clocked in, or not first clocked in, starting from about 30 minutes prior to this call? Can you please bring us through the recollections of that day?
Yeah, so I was waiting in PD for any calls because it was not much going on really. So I was waiting until I got a call on a radio of a pursuit going on with Jack and Mr. What's his name? Next to Ramirez.
Oh,
Mr. Heffo.
Mr. Heffo. And
Heffo.
as I showed up, they were at Alt parking. And when I showed up, Ramirez was in his in a purpley blackish car. And Mr. Heffo got into the car, then hit the jump off Old Park, and tried to hit a jump onto the roof, failed twice, till eventually he hit it. They both got out of the car when I tried to loop around to go onto the highway to see if I can see them. When I got told I could open fire if I see them. So I shot, don't know who it was, but I shot someone twice, and when Jack took both of them down.
Appreciate that, Officer Pickstock. And now, because you were on your way to Alta, was there any reason that you were already on your way? Is it true that your commanding officer, Officer Dawson, was already in a 1080 when he called it over the radio, and that is what led you to join the pursuit? Is that correct?
Yep.
So, in your best opinion, or in your most professional opinion, you would say that the individuals or the defendants were already engaged in an unlawful act, correct? By evading your request to stop.
Yep.
Okay. And when you had gotten the commanding word from Officer Dawson to open fire, was there any reason that Officer Dawson had explained to you as to why you were able to discharge your firearm? Did you see any dangerous situations prior to him letting you know to open fire, or were you just simply following orders?
Just following orders.
Perfect. That's all the questioning I really have for Officer Pickstock. I'll leave it up to the defendant if he wishes to cross-examine.
Thank you, my learned friend. Officer Pickstock, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today in this court. I do have a number of questions. For the sake of the witnesses in the gallery, could you explain what a jump is? You kept saying they kept hitting the jump. What's the jump?
Basically, when he hits something and goes into the air and tries to land, or tries to land on something or go through somewhere.
Okay.
Off the jump. Off
Okay.
a ramp.
And do you know why they might have been doing that?
To try escape.
What, sorry?
To try escape us.
Try and
me.
escape, yeah. Okay. Now, you said already that the only information your superior officer had given you at this point was that there was a 1080 or a police chase in progress. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. You have no idea why that police chase began, do you?
No.
No. And you also stated there that you were told to open fire, and you were just following orders. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I do have some more further questions on that. Do you think that maybe there's a chance that the defendants were fleeing from the case because Officer Dawson was acting in an overly aggressive manner?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Why would you say that? Were you there with him the whole time?
No, but I know how good Officer Dawson is, and
Okay.
he wouldn't be like that.
You would. Oh, that's really good to know. That's your personal opinion, though. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think all the other officers will agree with me.
Okay. Unfortunately, we won't get to hear from them today, but thank you for that, Aaron. I would suggest that my colleagues, my clients, sorry, might have been in a state of fear and alarm and trying to just merely escape. What would lead to me thinking that is the fact that what happened after they hit the jump and landed on the building?
They
Did they
got
continue
out.
to try and flee? Did they try and act aggressively? What were they doing when
They
you
got
came up
out.
on them?
And when I was on the highway, I saw Ramirez with his AK in his hand.
Sorry, AK?
Yep.
What's an AK?
An AR. It's a
An
type
assault
of
rifle?
class 3 weapon.
Sorry. You remember you're speaking to a courtroom that has lay people inside, so we have to use proper terms rather than just short terms, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, it does say, you said in your evidence that you were told to open fire. What did you see prior to opening fire? Did you see them acting in an aggressive manner? What were both of the accused doing?
I only saw that I saw an M4 assault rifle on Mr. Heffo's back, and then I did also see Ramirez with an AK assault rifle.
Okay. So one gentleman had a weapon on his back, so posing no threat to anyone, not to you, not to the public at large, not to anyone. And Mr. Ramirez what was he holding the assault rifle?
Yeah, he was holding it in his hands.
Was he pointing it at anything?
No, he was holding it in his hand.
Just simply holding it, maybe because he was in a state of fear and alarm, yes?
Yeah, but it's still an illegal weapon.
Yeah, but if someone's firing upon you and chasing you, you might get scared.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't see how that's. I mean, it's an illegal firearm, no matter whether or not they were scared or not. Should they brandish it at all in the public? It would still be cause for illegal activity, which would then even pursue more charges based on them exiting the vehicle, whether or not they were in fear for their life. They should have continued running rather than turn around and brandish illegal firearms to the police. So, in my opinion, I believe that this questioning. Or this particular question is thrown out the window. I would object to this, Your Honor. I hear this is hearsay.
You rule, Judge.
Oh wait, sorry.
How do you rule?
Sorry, just having a few ad issues here. I need you to repeat.
I was just saying the line of questioning that the defense team is asking about why he had open fired or trying to justify the fact that his clients were openly carrying class 3 illegal weapons because they were in fear of their life. So even if they were in fear of their life fleeing from Officer Dawson, they decided to exit their vehicle to turn and brandish class 3 firearms. In that case, they are now entering a new legal issue of brandishing illegal weapons and having possession of an illegal weapon. Even if they were fleeing in fear of their life, those weapons are still illegal and should not be brandished in any way, shape, or form, let alone be held at the public. So, I mean, I'm asking you to throw this line of questioning out with an objection.
Okay, so you can proceed.
So you're rejecting his objection?
Are you agreeing to my objection, Your Honor, or
Yes.
rejecting? Okay, all right, he's agreeing to the objection.
Okay. Okay, so once again, Mr. Pico, when you arrived on scene, you saw one suspect with a weapon on his back, one suspect holding a weapon. As for why, we'll move on from that. But what was happening prior to you being told to open fire?
Do you mean by prior, like before?
Yeah, right before you opened fire, what were the two suspects doing?
Stepping out of the car
Doing anything else?
Objection.
with the weapons.
Okay.
Does the
and,
defense have an objection?
um,
Their own questioning? Did I hear that right?
think they're just,
No.
okay. So you were just following orders when you were told to open fire. Did you tell them that you were police and to drop their weapons?
No,
Is it normal for you just to open fire on people after a simple traffic stop or simple traffic violation?
no.
Okay. What would be the normal procedure in this kind of scenario?
The normal procedure would just to be, just try like to tase them, maybe tackle them and arrest them.
Okay. So just opening fire without forewarning would be extraordinary.
Objection, Your Honor. According to the use of lethal force, police officers are able to discharge their firearm if they deem that whatever is in front of them is a harm to themselves or a harm to immediate others. So if Aaron or Officer Pickstock here noticed that these firearms were being brandished and a commanding officer had given him the command to fire, it means that that commanding officer most likely was in danger, or Aaron himself took it upon himself to visualize the situation, assess it, and realize locals were in danger, decided to discharge his firearm as well. So, I mean, I would say that would be completely pointless to bring up because we already have our use of lethal force.
No, I would disagree, Lord. For the simple matter of the fact that in the next witness, Mr. Officer
Overruled.
Dawson.
Let Aaron continue.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the normal procedure would be tasing them, tackling them, or just trying to get them in cuffs without having to use any lethal force.
Okay. And were you surprised at the fact that you were asked to just open fire?
Not really, because they both had class 3s.
Okay. What happened as soon as fire was made?
We just tried to get them down as quickly as possible.
Okay. And was it a straightforward shoot and arrest?
Yep.
Yeah, as in it would almost be like the two suspects didn't even know you were there. Would that be right to say?
Not that quick.
Not that quick, but fairly quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Your superior officer in this case is Mr. Jack Dawson. You've already spoke very glowingly of his character and personality, which I'm sure he'll be very happy to hear. Given the breaking of normal rules of engagement, what would you say Mr. Dawson's mental state was at the time?
He was just. I think he was a bit scared because he saw the class 3s.
Okay, so he was in fear. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And yeah, I think that would be all my questions just now, Lord. Your Honour, sorry. Be back to your witness, do you?
Get that, Jimmy. I do have one final question for Officer Pickstock before I let him go and bring up my next witness. At the time of this incident, and I'd like you to think really hard for me, Officer Pickstock, and try to remember as clearly. I know it was a very stressful day for you and Officer Dawson. Did you at any time, whether it's over the radio or a dispatcher, or with your own eyes and ears, hear any shots fired in the vicinity of the initial engagement of the defendants escaping you up until prior to you guys subduing them and providing medical aid? Did you hear any shots, or were you made aware of any shots from commanding officers, your own eyes and ears, or through dispatch?
Do you mean shots from them?
Yes, shots from them.
Yeah, I think there was a couple after we opened fire.
Perfect. That's it, Your Honor. I'm done with that witness, and I would like to call forth the next.
I'll just get a chance to re-examine. Normally, I would get a chance to rebut your.
Yeah.
Sorry, Officer Pickstock. One more question. Your testimony there says you think that they returned fire. Is
Yep.
that a certainty or is that just a guess?
I'm not too sure if the shots were coming from Jack, but I did see shots
Yeah.
either
So-
towards Owen Ramirez or from Owen Ramirez
And where was this?
on top of a building.
So this is after you've already opened fire on them?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All right. The prosecution calls Officer Dawson to stand. Officer Dawson, how are you? How you doing today?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to hear. Hopefully, you're recovering from the stress of that day. I would like to open the questioning to play off of something that the defense team had mentioned earlier. Can you recall your state of mind during the initial sight of class 3s? I just want to get an understanding of where your head was at.
At the time of seeing the class 3s, I was more fearful for my colleague that was positioning himself on the on Olympic Freeway at the time.
Okay, so you were in fear, not specifically for your life, but specifically for the officer that you were in charge of. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If you could please state your full name and your position for us in LSPD.
Yeah, my name is Jack Dawson, and I am Assistant Chief.
Assistant Chief, thank you for being here. So, as the Assistant Chief, it would be safe to assume that you would have several years of experience under your belt, correct?
That is correct.
And it would be safe to say that this wouldn't have been your first chase that led into a high-powered weapon being drawn from another individual, correct?
That is correct. This is not my first time.
If you can, please take us back to the initial reason that you had gone out on patrol. Because in your statement, you had stated that a local citizen had called in about a discharge of a high caliber rifle. Is that true? And is that why you were out on patrol that day?
That is correct. I was making my way over to Occupation Avenue where the shots were seen. At which point I saw a white two-door vehicle with a red stripe speeding past, which led into a 1080.
Okay, so you initially went there. You saw there weren't any individuals brandishing firearms as the call had portrayed, but when you arrived, you saw a sports car speeding off, obviously going above the speed requirement, correct?
That is correct.
And as you engaged in your pursuit, did you try to get them to pull over? Did you try to open up communication at all to get them to stop? What was your actions from that moment?
At the time, I was trying to keep pace with the vehicle as it was going at high speeds. It did not seem as though the vehicle was going to stop at any time.
Okay, and how long into the chase did you call in backup from Officer Pickstock?
Almost immediately.
Okay. And as you were chasing him through a obvious traffic violation, which then led into reckless evading and then into reckless driving, at any time did they brandish any firearms at you out the window? Did they shoot or get out of the car and you see any firearms? Explain to me how you when you originally spotted them with these weapons.
As I was chasing this vehicle into Alta Apartments, Mr. Ramirez T-boned me, stopping me from able to enter the Alta parking lot, at which point Mr. Ramirez entered the parking lot. Mr. Heffo got out of the vehicle that he was driving, which was the white two-door sports vehicle, and that's when I saw the M4 on his back. At which point, that's when I started assessing what the action should be going forward.
Okay, so just so I can make clear to the court and to the judge, Mr. Heffo was the original driver of that white car that you were chasing, and at which, when you got to Alta Apartments, Mr. Ramirez, who was not priorly engaged at all in that traffic stop or that attempted traffic stop, decided to ram his vehicle into yours, which then provided Mr. Heffo to leave his vehicle, showing the Class 3 weapon, and then decided to get into Mr. Ramirez's vehicle. I just want to make sure that that is clear to the judge in the courtroom. Is that what you are saying, officer?
That is correct.
Okay. With that being said, as Mr. Ramirez was not initially involved with the traffic stop, therefore could not be in fear of his life of actively interfering in a chase, once you saw that the M4 was on the back of the defendant, is it true that with authorization of lethal force, if a commanding officer deems it necessary to use lethal force due to a possible or potentially deadly opposition to himself, to others, or to the local citizens, are you, underneath your SOPs and use of lethal force, allowed to put your taser away and use lethal force instead of non-lethal? Is that correct?
That is correct. Anything above a Class 2 weapon should be deemed as lethal force and should be basically assessed during that point if you should respond in kind.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Dawson. Dawson, I appreciate that. Now, once the individuals, from what Mr. Pickstock has explained, had repeatedly tried to vault their car off of some leftover construction equipment that made into a makeshift ramp, once they had landed upon the roof of that building, did you lose sight of them at all? Were you able to keep eyes on them? What happened up until they got onto the roof and then you were able to get on that roof? Please walk me through your tactics.
During that time, we did lose visual. I instructed Officer Pickstock to go to Olympic Freeway to see if he could get eyes, as I found a set of ladders that were leading up to that roof. I attempted to climb up the roof, up the ladder onto the roof where Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Heffo were not able to see me, at which point I saw Mr. Heffo brandishing the M4. At that point, that's when I determined lethal force was required.
At any time, Assistant Chief Dawson, did you see... one moment. Did you see Mr. Ramirez brandishing, as to what Officer Pickstock had implemented, a AK-47 style rifle? Did you see visual of that weaponry at all during this interaction?
That is correct. Mr. Ramirez made a pass around the rear of his vehicle in plain sight of myself. That is when I saw the AK-47.
Were any of the defendants actively holstering or handling the weapon? Was it slung over their shoulder or was it actively in their hands?
It was actively in their hands until Mr. Heffo attempted to enter the vehicle.
And at any time during this, before you opened fire, at any time did the defendants fire upon you or brandish or point their weapon at you?
They only had their weapons in hand. They had their weapons in hand, at which point I determined that for the safety of my colleagues and myself and the local, that is when I gave the all clear to open fire. They did not point, but it was for the safety of the public and of my fellow officers that was the chosen course.
Thank you, officer or assistant chief. And after opening fire and obviously causing bodily harm to subdue the individuals, what length or measures were taken or protocols in order to provide potential life-saving medical to these individuals?
Once we both handcuffed both individuals, we searched them just to make sure that we removed any potential weapons that could further harm us from them, and then immediately drove them to pillbox for immediate attention, medical attention.
So once you were able to render the assailants away from their firearms and you were able to make sure that the situation was safe, how long did that take before you had begun escort to pillbox?
The moment we finished the search and rendered they were safe, it was immediately when we took them to pillbox.
Are we talking a matter of seconds, a couple of minutes, 15 minutes, as far as timeline?
So from the moment we brought them down from the roof after subduing them to getting them to pillbox, it was close to about 4 to 5 minutes as we had to get down the ladder safely with both assailant in hand and then search them.
Okay, so it's safe to say that with a lot of the evidence, if I'm not mistaken, with Mr. Heffo during the subduing process and making sure that the assailant is safe to transport to medical, you had removed 2 LSPD issued Glock 17s, 1 LSPD issued M4 rifle, along with a stolen weapon license that actually belonged to Mr. Aaron Pickstock. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And when Mr. Ramirez was searched before provided medical aid, he was found the AK-47 that you and Mr. Pickstock had both mentioned seeing. Not only was that, but he also had cocaine residue or powder on him as well.
That's correct. Also, he had a pink laptop, but we have no knowledge of what that does within the city.
Okay, no worries. That's totally fine. That was left out of evidence. The court can go ahead and scratch that off. That shouldn't be used in any decision making whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and null the laptop out, but that is good to know. In your professional opinion, assistant, before I turn it over to the defense team, the reason why you decided to sneak up on them and open fire, I just want to reiterate for the court, is because you had viewed 2 high-powered rifles of a Class 3 system that were being brandished by individuals that not only were 1080ing from you, but a second assailant, Mr. Ramirez, slamming into your car and picking up the individual, or the other individual. The reason you went to lethal is because you deemed these 2 individuals an immediate threat not only to you and your fellow officer, but to the immediate public that were below that building. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is all of my questioning, Your Honor. I'll go ahead and turn it over to the defense team.
I can't hear him.
Might be broken.
Huh?
Jimmy, you there?
Jimmy!
Jimmy,
Speak,
we
son.
can't hear you,
My
Bubba.
apologies. My
Jammers.
There
apologies.
you go.
Thank you again to my learned friend for his kind words and kind questions to the witness. Before I begin, I'd just like to thank my Officer Dawson for his many years of service to this wonderful city, and hope that he gets to serve many more after today's outcome. What I do want to bring up is I will be speaking slightly out of order, so forgive me if you don't follow along. But just something that came to mind as DA Dupree was speaking there was, what is the normal process for bail?
The normal
How do
process.
you work out the fees and stuff for that?
The normal process, it tends to be 10 times the fine that is given.
Okay.
But obviously, after talking to yourself and the suspects, we brought that down from 10 times to a much more reasonable price.
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to trip you up here. I'm simply just trying to understand. Why would it be 10 times the rate? Is it in order to force a suspect into just accepting the charges given to them?
No, this is in case they decide to not show up at court, even if they have a anklet bracelet placed on them.
Okay. Okay, that's something we should maybe discuss outside of this courtroom, but thank you for that. You've already given your testimony to the court on how the chase started. Can you just can we go revisit it, please? When you came across the white and red sports car, the two-door car, that was being driven by the accused, Mr. Heffo, did you make it clear that you were a police officer? I know you were driving a police vehicle with the lights on, but did you announce that you were a police officer?
By the time I was able to turn around and start chase, he was not within shouting distance of my vehicle, so the only presumed way he would know that he was being chased was lights and sirens.
Okay. And is it common for police cars to be stolen in this city?
There are times police cars are stolen, but not when they're undercover vehicles.
Okay. And whenever those vehicles are stolen, in your opinion or your knowledge, do they get used for criminal enterprises?
Not with my knowledge, no.
Okay. But we could assume that could be something that happens.
Sometimes,
No,
yes.
I see no reason for this line of questioning. It has nothing to do with anything that's in talks of this case. I don't understand what the line of questioning is for.
I'm trying to ascertain whether or not the suspects knew that they were being chased by police or by other gang members.
I mean, they have I don't think another gang member would. I mean, that's up to you, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I think
Let
the
officer
questioning's
or let Mr. Bones speak.
okay.
Okay, right, well, moving on from that, we don't need to go any further. I was just trying to work that one out. It's just we've broken SOP a number of times here, so I'm just trying to understand which parts were done properly and which weren't. Now, you've stated that when you were chasing Mr. Heffel, he went to the parking garage, and at that point, Mr. Ramirez rammed you in another vehicle. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. What happened right at that moment? What happened right after that?
I was attending whether if I was about to be fired upon by Mr. Ramirez or not before moving forward. The moment Mr. Ramirez started driving towards Mr. Heffel, I assumed that I was not going to be fired upon, and that's when I saw Mr. Heffel get out of the white vehicle with the red stripe and get into Mr. Ramirez's vehicle.
Okay, and did you try and establish communication with either suspect at this time?
I requested Mr. Ramirez not to ram again, otherwise force will be used.
And did he ram you again?
He did not, but he proceeded to aid Mr. Heffel in attempting to escape.
Okay, thank you for that, officer. So, you as assistant chief, you were probably the most senior officer in the city at that time, yes?
That is correct.
And given your position, you'll be fully aware of all standard operating procedures, any rules of engagement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can I just make a quick... I'm going to read from your witness testimony quite briefly, if that's all right with your lordship.
Yeah.
So from your statement, it states, I was able to climb the ladder without them noticing, at which point I saw Heffo brandishing the M4, and since he clearly wasn't afraid to use it, I wasn't taking any chances in allowing him to fire at me or my colleague, so I opened fire, hoping it would just make them drive off the building, but a few shots did hit Heffo as he entered the car, at which point I saw Ramirez holding an AK-47 and not making any attempts to leave, so I fired again, not really aiming at him, but a few shots did hit his head. That's from your witness testimony, is that right?
That is correct. I was hoping a few warning shots would force them off of the roof and proceed into a chase rather than a shootout.
Thank you. Given your high station in the police department, you'll also be aware that the standard operating procedure for use of deadly force clearly states two things. One is that there is no allowance for warning shots whatsoever unless in a prison setting. And two, that you, not always, but you should try and always clearly identify yourself as law enforcement before firing. Are you aware of this?
I am aware of this. The reason why it was more of a warning shot was because I did not have a clear shot upon Ramirez. That is why the shots on Ramirez were above his head.
So you broke standard operating procedures because you did not have a clear shot, is that correct?
Essentially, yes.
Okay. You also state that in your witness statement that you noticed that they had no idea that you were on the roof, is that correct?
I believe that they did not see me up there, but the moment I opened fire, I believe that they did presume I was up there.
Okay. In law, we have a statement. It says in Latin, it says "res ipsa loquitur." The facts speak for themselves. I think the fact that the assault happened so quickly and you took them down so quickly, we could assume or infer from those facts that they did not know you were there. So my question to you, Officer Dawson, would be, why would you be in fear for yourself or any other officer if they had no idea that they were even had eyes on them, let alone have officers with weapons drawn on them?
Because they were seen by Officer Pickstock. He was in clear view of them. That is essentially the reason why I feared for his life over mine more, and I want to make sure that his safety was assured.
Okay. From speaking to Mr. Pickstock, he doesn't seem to have that same level of fear for his own safety. Is it normal for you to be in fear for yourself and other colleagues' safety on duty, or is that just a part of the station of Assistant Chief?
It's more of a personal belief. I fear for all officers' lives while they are under my command. Even for my chief, I fear for his life every time I'm on duty.
Okay. Would you agree that fear is a healthy thing to have sometimes?
It allows you to assess situations with a more clear head.
You think fear allows that?
Fear does allow it because it allows you to attune whether the situation is dangerous or not.
So, according to doctors, fear induces the body to release adrenaline and cortisol, stress hormone, and fight or flight hormone. As a police officer, you're quite clearly in the fight side of that response to your body, and the cortisol being adding stress. I would put it to you then that fear in this instance led you to act in a much more aggressive manner than would normally be the case.
It might seem that way, but I was clear-headed while making this judgment. I was more, yes, I may say I was fearful for my colleague's life, but the situation was more clear to me than the actual fear for his life.
Okay. Now, as we've discussed, you've given your reasons for why you've broken your own rules for rules of engagement. How would you react if a junior officer acted in such a way without?
I would react the same way that I am today.
Okay, so you're happy that you showed a junior officer how to behave in such a situation?
if he is defending his fellow officers and himself, it is mandatory to show that you are respecting your fellow officers and showing that you are respecting their lives.
Yeah, I'm with you. I understand. I'm trying to get in your mindset so that we can understand why the incident happened in the manner it. I'm just struggling to see at which point any aggression was shown by the accused. From
By brandishing the M4 and the AK-47, that is showing aggression in itself.
so holding a weapon is showing aggression.
It's a legal Class 3 weapon.
It's holding a legal weapon. Mr. Bones here is failing to obviously state the severity of the weapons that were being brandished. It's not like they were brandishing their concealed carry license issued Class 1 pistols. These were, in fact, high-powered rifles that were illegally obtained as well. I would allow or hope that Mr. Bones would keep the severity of the items in question out loud to the judge as well, to remind him how illegal these items, no matter what situation they were brandished in that you may be trying to spend, but were illegal no matter the point.
I'll take that note. Okay, my only point, the reason I bring this up, DA Dupree and Officer Dawson, is you already ascertained earlier on that you were not going to be fired upon. That is your exact words when I asked you about being rammed.
That was from Mr. Ramirez, not from Mr. Heffo.
Yeah.
As a local already reported in that a M4 was fired freely as I was approaching before the 1080. That was also brought into my assessment when making the judgment of the final call.
You two need to get on it, bro.
If we can we please I would request we approach the bench really quick.
All right, boys.
To start issuing the ability for you to enact any type of contempt, as we've had several outbursts. I'm not sure if it's from the defendant team or if it's from the audience, but it is getting a bit overbearing, as well as they are, I believe, shouting out gang terms. So I would appreciate if we can start fining people and assigning jail time, or just removing them from the courtroom altogether.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So see that Don over there with the chains? Yeah, he's the guy doing all these gang signs and screaming and shouting. Can we get that fucking dickhead out of the courtroom, please?
Both my officers on the right and left are your...
escort the gentleman in the suit with the chain on out of the courtroom. He is being held in contempt.
Right.
Yes, both these officers are in your control.
What have I done?
Can we
Go ahead,
put
Mr.
him in
Bones.
cuffs, and we're gonna have to assign
Apologies
him
for that.
some jail time for that.
Please put him in cuffs, he'll be going to jail.
It's an unfortunate break in there. I apologise to the court.
No
I am
problem.
slightly taken off guard, so I'll just need a wee second to reassess where my line of questioning was. Does anyone remember what the last question was that was asked?
You were talking about, I believe, Officer Dawson stating that he did not feel that he would be fired upon by Mr. Ramirez, but he
Yes.
was still unsure if Mr. Heffo would brandish that firearm and fire upon him. I believe that's where you left off. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thank you very much for that, DA Dupree. Yeah, so just going back to that, what changed? Why did you suddenly change your opinion of the situation from previous?
The moment Mr. Heffo decided to get into Mr. Ramirez's vehicle, that was when I changed how I viewed the situation. If the pair of them would fire upon me the moment they got out of the vehicle, or fired upon my colleague the moment they got out of their vehicle, at which point that's when I decided it would be best to see what they do when they are on top of that roof, which is why I was able to get up on the roof without them knowing. And at first I was viewing them, seeing what they were doing, and that's when I saw the M4 brandished by Mr. Heffo. That's when I was not taking any chances.
Okay. At any point, were you fired upon by the two accused?
I do not believe so. I do not believe they knew exactly where I was.
And during the car chase, did you fire upon the accused?
I did not.
And did they fire upon you?
No, they did not.
So just to summarise, at no point did any shots get fired upon you?
Not from the vehicle or when they were out of the vehicle, but again, I had to assess the situation from the fact that they had illegal Class 3 firearms.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Your Honour.
No further questions from myself, Your Honor. I'd be more than happy to go into closing statements before you make your decision.
Okay, we'll be proceeding into the closing statements now.
Mr. Bones, would you like to go first, or would you mind if I...
You go ahead.
Okay. Your Honor, people of the court, as we've seen today, Assistant Chief Dawson, as Mr. Bones has pointed out, may have broken SOPs with firing a warning shot. Now, it's speculation, possibly, whether or not those warning shots were unfortunate misses, which rendered Officer Dawson into calling them warning shots, but we'll take them as word of mouth and testimony, as they are warning shots, and the SOPs clearly state that warning shots are not to be used in any context other than a prison setting. Now, with that being said, although Assistant Chief Dawson did break an SOP, standard operating procedure, of firing a warning shot, he put his life on the line to protect not only his underling officer, but the immediate citizens as well. Now, you can say in fancy words that weapons weren't pointed, weapons weren't fired, fear increases this, or fear decreases that.
Could I take
At the end of the day, Officer Dawson saw two highly armed individuals, and in his several decades of working throughout PD, climbing the ranks, seeing all sorts of things, it's very rare that you're going to see two swell stand-up citizens walking around with Class 3 firearms. And all I would like you, Your Honor, today, and those of the court to understand and take into consideration is, if you were a citizen in that vicinity, if you were somebody who was affected by that car crash or in the shootout, would you not have wanted Officer Dawson to lay his life on the line every single time in order to protect yours? That's all that I have for the court. And I hope that you guys make the right decision.
Okay. Oi, stop clapping, dickhead. Thank you. Go ahead there, Mr. Bones.
Voice box again.
Mr. Bones, your voice box is being goobery.
Apologies to the court for that.
There you go.
Thank you, Your Honour. So, once again, I'll keep this short. There's no need for us to go on much longer. At the beginning of this trial, we said that we would prove that the officers broke protocol, that they acted above their station, and that gains made from that arrest should not be allowed to be held against the accused. I feel like we've highlighted that and brought it up. Officer Pickstock, has clearly said that the protocol used for taking down the suspects was beyond normal. He's clearly said it was an extraordinary use of force. The Assistant Chief, in his testimony, has agreed that he broke his own standard operating procedures. Not one, not two, but maybe more. What I would say is that, should that have been a junior officer, we could maybe hold it, say, you know, they're learning, they're inexperienced, they're allowed to feel fear. The DA tries to brush off fear as something that is fancy words. It's not. Fear has a real significant difference on someone's mentality. And I would suggest that someone with so many years' experience should be held to a higher standard than a regular police officer or a junior police officer, or even a senior one. The assistant chief should be the best of the best of the best and should never act under fear. It should be under proper process, if not only for the criminal but for himself, to hold the city to a higher standard. I believe, and I put it to you, that the city has acted unlawfully by allowing this action to happen. I put it to you that the breach of these rules of engagement allow this case to be dismissed fully and without prejudice. And we have shown time and time again that my clients acted in a non-aggressive way. At no point did we find out if these weapons were even toys. They could have been toy weapons that they were holding. They never brandished them to fire at anyone. They never aimed at anyone. So I'll just conclude there and say that we've already proven everything we said that we would. The officers have admitted it. So I hope that Your Honour will decide in the way of the accused. Thank you, Your Honour. Thank you, the court. If Your Honour
Okay,
wants
so-
to go for deliberations before coming back, I think that would be fine.
I'll be proceeding into the back rooms to discuss the verdict. Okay. Bubba, could you please follow me into the back rooms?
Sure.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
You ready? Do they?
Assistant Chief Dawson.
Yeah.
If you can just come over here really quick for me.
Yeah.
So it was brought to my attention by the judge that there was a attempted murder charge placed on Heffo. For the future, can we please put all charges underneath one incident report so this doesn't happen? Incident 147. When they posted bail, did you base that incident number on their bail or any fines that you had already charged Heffo?
No.
Okay,
So
all fines that you charged him for bail was only based off of incident 150. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all I needed to know. Thank you.
I, the judge, and the jury.
One second, Judge. One second.
What the fuck is going on here?
If Mr. Bones and I may be allowed to approach the bench, we'd like to have just one quick discussion.
10-4.
Again, go check outside.
You guys could just back up so y'all don't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, move away, Heffel.
Hello?
Sit down, Jack. Be nice.
You told me sit. What stool you sit
On
in?
a chair.
I'm not standing on a chair.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Quiet in the fucking
Sit down like a dog.
courtroom.
In my eyes, I'm sitting on it.
You can go ahead and proceed, Your Honor.
Okay, I have come to my decision. I, the judge, and the jury, find Owen Ramirez and Callum Heffo guilty of all the charges filed. Where the
Where they
fuck
going?
are they going?
Oh shit! They're making a run for it. What the fuck? Holy shit.
I'm gonna tease you. I'm gonna fucking tease you.
No, what?
Got one tease. One tease. Got one tease.
I was in, man.
You weren't. You were still outside.
Get me in.
Tackling.
No.
Go for cuffs.
Nope.
Well, apparently no one fucking near me.
Come on, do you want to jump behind us?
Mate, you can't tase me. I'm in the rain. You can't.
I know, that's why I'm going for the tackle.
I'm in. Run.
No! Black limo, black limo.